want to welcome you to the program today. I'm so happy to be here with you, with Vicki Thorn. Vicki, what brings you to Rome today?
Well, I'm here because I'm a corresponding member of the Pontifical Academy for Life, and we've just finished our meeting. So soon we'll be returning, but we're here for now.
Great. Well, it's a pleasure to welcome you to Bella Roma and to be with us here for Voice of the Vatican. Vicki, you are the founder of Project Rachel. What is Project Rachel?
Project Rachel is the official outreach of the Catholic Church in America now. But when I started it, it was just in a local diocese.
Okay.
But it is a ministry of healing and reconciliation for women and men who have lost children to abortion. And it came about because I ended up being a Respect Life director for a diocese I didn't apply for, but the job fell into my lap. But it does, yeah. The bishops had called right after abortion was legalized for a ministry of healing. And because they were confessors, they knew there was pain, but they didn't know how to solve it. Okay, so there was this call. Well, there were no experts at this point. This is shortly after abortion was legalized. And my own background is of a friend in high school, again, before it was legal in the United States, who had had an abortion arranged by her mother in a summer between freshman and sophomore and junior year. And my friend told me about it. And she was so distraught. And she had already had a baby and placed it for adoption, which I didn't know. She had come to the school late. And afterwards, every time we talked about it, she always said, I can live with the adoption. I can't live with the abortion. And those words are still etched in my heart today because it was, how could we help women? If she's hurting that much, there must be more. Sure. And then as life unfolded, I met more women in other jobs, and then I came to be Respect Life director. And I went to my archbishop and said, can we do this? And he said, I'll give you whatever money you need. That's very important. But it took me 7 years from the idea of being born to having it come to fruition. But when it did, it came to fruition within 6 weeks based on, I had found the people I needed, but there was a priest I needed who was here in Rome at this point. It was Father Bob Pharisee. He's a Wisconsin province Jesuit who was teaching here. And I needed a priest who I would describe as a automatic confessor. If he walks in the room, he doesn't have to have his collar on. Everybody knows they all talk to him. Well, I knew he was my missing link. And so another priest who was doing this with me said, well, hey, I'm bringing him in September. And we just finished teaching together, so let's call him. He's at a retreat center, so we did. He was at this is long ago, past history, when there were, calls coming to the front desk, okay?
Oh, way back then.
And he was there. So I said, could you talk about this? And he said, sure. So based on that, 6 weeks later, we did a training. We had 60 priests and a lot of mental health people. The Archbishop was there. I invited the press. And we were not going to announce the ministry officially for about 6 weeks, because just because I trained you today didn't mean we were ready to grow, okay? There were a lot of questions. How do I get the women to the people who need to see her? All those sorts of things. Well, the woman who covered this story had a friend who'd had an abortion. She was very concerned about this, and so she called me at night and said, Vicki, we're going to break the story tomorrow morning. And I said, just talk about the training. It's the first of its kind in the world, okay? And I'll give you the story.
Right.
Yeah, except the editor didn't buy that. And so the next morning at 7 a.m., the phone rang, and it was one of the local radio stations who wanted to interview me in 20 minutes on the front page story I hadn't seen. And so all day long, and I had a priest staying with us. Father was my administrative assistant. We had 4 small children, including a baby. Father would take the kids out in the backyard. Television crew would come in the front door. It went around the world that day. It's a feast of Our Lady of La Salette, Consolation of Sinners, a weeping Madonna. I didn't know that until years later, all right? But it immediately took off across the country because those of us who were Respect Life directors had spoken about this, the need for some kind of help. Well, here it was. And so then I was an expert in a field that didn't exist the day before. I've continued to do that since. But the importance of it is so great because the depth of the woundedness is so deep.
Wow. It's incredible to hear how the Holy Spirit was working through this.
Oh, man, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you mentioned, Vicki, that this healing is not only for women. You mentioned it's also for men.
Absolutely, and other members of the family. But, we think about the women, obviously. But the men hurt a great deal, and they have different roles in terms of they might have wanted to stop it and tried and couldn't. They might have agreed because we were both graduate students, and it seemed okay, but then later on it sneaks up on you. You've got the men who force, and many times they may not heal. They're very wounded. They're narcissists, and it's about a power trip. Then there are the men who find out after it happened because their friend tells them. There are the men who wonder if it happened. There are the men who almost lost a child. So there's a big variety, and we've done conferences for them. But what we need to understand is that fathers are in the chemical dance of pregnancy with the woman. So by 4 weeks, this woman carries cells in her body from her child. She'll carry them the rest of her life. It's called microchimerism. Changes her scent. All right. Now, she doesn't even know she's pregnant at 4 weeks yet. Okay. Okay. He perceives this scent change, and this isn't perfume scent. These are pheromones, which are really about relationships, right? Perceived by a different nerve in the brain. Well, his body starts changing biochemically, and it changes throughout the pregnancy. All right. And as many as between 60 and 90% of fathers actually have symptoms with their partner. It's called KUVAD. And 20% of them are really sick. And those 20%, when the baby comes, they know the difference in the baby's cries immediately.
Amazing.
And men are permanently changed in that first pregnancy.
Really?
His testosterone drops and never goes as high again as it was prior to the pregnancy. There's brain changes, there's all kinds of interesting things, but we have to talk about both partners because relationships shatter after them. It's about 30% stay together, all right? But so I might be marrying somebody with my abortion history and she has hers. We never talk about it. If we don't talk about it, it's going to go into the bedroom and it's going to be an intimacy issue. They don't trust each other.
Why would you say, Vicki, that healing is so important? And can it happen? And how does it happen?
Yes, healing does happen because God can do anything.
Praise God.
But you know, it's important. One of the things that came to me at one point is for women who are seeking healing, not only from this, other things, men too, to say a very risky prayer. And it's risky because God always answers it, which is, God, I give you permission to heal me. Because often women hold this wound in their heart and it's unforgivable in their mind. This is the big sin, okay? So to help them to transition, this is a mother who lost a child in a traumatic and unnatural fashion. She's had no opportunity to grieve. She's afraid of God. She hasn't forgiven herself. There are oftentimes other people involved that might need forgiveness here, okay? So it's a multiple step kind of process in terms of working through it. Well, Project Rachel, the gift is that you can take as long as you need. You need 10 years. There's people there who can walk with you, whether they're therapists, priests, spiritual directors, doctors, nurses, whatever, okay? And that's the importance of recognizing how significant the wound is. So many women are spiritually aborted themselves. This thought that I would be raising a child is beyond me because I don't feel capable, okay? And we don't recognize that because on the outside, they look really capable, okay? But also to know that a woman who's healed never supports abortion again, never seeks an abortion again, and becomes an advocate for life. Maybe not in the public square because that's not always the best place. There's too many people in this age of social media. You know, I speak in New York and grandma in San Francisco sees me. This has happened, all right? So how do I do that? Kind of behind the scenes. But the fathers become very active in terms of doing things. There's a man by the name of Jason Jones who produced Bella. He's a father. He talks very openly about it. He swore the day that he found out his daughter died that he would personally end abortion. He might. If you've met him, he is a force to be reckoned with.
Indeed.
But wonderful guy. I mean, just so committed. But it's important that everybody in the system is healed. Grandparents grieve. Brothers and sisters of the people who have abortions may know, okay? The children who follow carry cells of those children. They're passed in the subsequent pregnancy. And they sometimes say, I always thought I should have, they're very specific usually, not generic sibling, brother or sister, okay. And we didn't know why that was, but then as I learned about the science of these cells, I'm like, well, they got biological knowledge, you know, and the mother has biological knowledge of who she didn't give birth to, because those cells are living cells, even though the child has gone to God. And that awareness spiritually of what happens when I'm healed, of the sin that I thought was unforgivable. You know, and in the world today, it's important that we talk about this because with Pope Francis having given general faculties, we have the missionaries, everybody's out there, okay?
Right, the missionaries of mercy.
In many countries, it was what was called a reserved sin. And so you could go to confession, but there needed to be special permission granted by the bishop. Well, that's not there now. And that sometimes was a barrier. I'm too embarrassed to come back again. Now, they're free to come for God's mercy. But we need people who can help them in other countries. And so one of the things I'm sort of looking for are communities of Catholic sisters, second, third world countries they're caring for women anyway. I mean, they deliver babies and they're the nurses and the teachers and the whatever who could learn about this so they could companion the women. Because the sacrament of confession starts the process, but there's more to it. As I said, she needs to grieve and she needs to forgive herself, and that takes time. It's a deep, deep soul wound. And so, we'll see what God does with this, but it's pretty amazing to see how it unfolds.
When a woman realizes that she needs healing, where does she begin? How does she find Project Rachel?
That's a good question. Depends on where in the world she is. She might not be able to find Project Rachel. But the priest at this point can start with the sacrament of confession. And then to know that we're working on putting together people, and to ask Father, are there people who can companion me? Because Father may well know who's there, okay? So there are some countries in Africa where I'm working with people right now to put things together, in Ghana and Malawi, Nigeria. It's not all in place yet, but it's unfolding. But to ask who might be there, who would have knowledge. Again, I've been in 25 countries. So it's not that there's a full-blown ministry necessarily, but there are people who know enough to be able to companion.
And what is your role in the ministry now?
I have no idea. Well, in the United States, the bishops officially took it over. They have far more resources than I do. All right. But I'm still doing a lot of the international, this piece now. I mean, I'm really feeling driven to get this in place. Again, it's a piece that's going to change the world. There are 50 million abortions a year, and that's not an accurate count. Okay, it's low. All right. To help people heal is so important. So I do that. I'm sort of a freelancer in terms of that sort of thing. I do a lot of training and speaking, and I'm doing some additional work in terms of the biology of the theology of the body. I have another talk on the wounds of the people born since the 60s in terms of cultures and what the shift in terms of abortion and contraception, mobility. People move so far now, they're not in their family that used to be there. So, I'm a freelancer in terms of those sorts of things. We still have the National Office of Post-Abortion Healing. And
where's that located?
It's in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Your hometown.
My hometown. And so there's just pieces that are there in terms of what needs to be done and seen. And I'm on the Pontifical Academy for Life, and so I get to talk to other people from around the world who are invested in those sorts of things, and do a lot of speaking on campuses, high school, college, in terms of both abortion injuries, those whole wounds, and the biology of the theology of the body.
Vicki, I know it was a meeting with the Pontifical Academy for Life that brought you to Rome this time. Would you tell us about the Pontifical Academy for Life and what their mission is?
Well, its mission is really to bring together people who are from various backgrounds. I mean, it is a diverse group, both in terms of country of origin and training, all right? But they're all people who bring a knowledge of bioethics, specific research, things like that. And it's a consultative body to the Holy Father, to some of the other pontifical commissions as well, in terms of family and women, they interplay with each other. And it's a phenomenal experience to be with those people from everywhere. And you get to know them, so you look forward to the next meeting because, who am I going to see that I haven't seen in a while? So because we're all corners of the world.
Wow, and what a beautiful way for you to bring your ministry to all the corners of the world.
Yes.
Vicki Thorn, I thank you so much for being here with us today.
My pleasure.
And many thanks from all of our viewers at Voice of the Vatican for taking the time to share your ministry and your work with us.
Thank you.
All the best. God bless you, Vicki.
God bless you.
Thank you.